Leafs fam, what is up? It is Game 6 day, a must-win for the Maple Brothers up against the Bruins at Air Canada Centre. You know that place is going to be absolutely nuts, but we don't have to wait until 7 o'clock to get ramped up, hyped up, fired up. We're doing it right now on the Maple Leafs Convo. I'm watching the Leafs Nation Network. They're throwing back to 92-93. Doug Gilmour with the wraparound on Curtis Joseph. Pat Burns wants to fight the other head coach. Wendell Clark dropping memories on us. All day long, I'm jacked. The Leafs tree is lit. Are you lit? I hope not yet. You have work to do, and so do we. Pre-game hype with Mike Augello on the other side. The Leafs conversation starts now. Here is our friend, the one and only Mike in Buffalo, who's actually Mike in Toronto. Good morning / afternoon / Game 6 day. You're at ACC. Get us set up, my friend.
Hey, Norman. It's an interesting vibe here for Game 6. I was just writing for my column for Hockey Buzz today that, right now, I know that the similarities about Game 5 and Game 7 from a few years back were echoed on Saturday, but if you look at what happened in 2013 and what is happening now, if the Leafs do win tonight, it'll be them coming back from a 3-1 deficit to force a Game 7. And, they did that with a 2-1 victory in Game 6 in 2013, and I think it's going to be a pretty tight contest between the Leafs and the Bruins tonight at Air Canada Centre.
Momentum's a fleeting thing, Mike. Based on what you're hearing from players pregame and the vibe at Air Canada Centre, do you sense there's a lot of pressure on the Maple Leafs, or did we exhaust that pressure narrative after the Game 4 loss, suggesting that maybe the Maple Leafs aren't ready for prime time and this whole experience will be the beginning of something greater when we look back on it?
Well, I think there's pressure throughout the series. What I think, though, is that, and you can't mistake the fact that the Leafs have played their best hockey in this series when their back is against the wall. They came in Game 3 down 2-0 and having to win basically to not go down 3-0, and they played a pretty good game. And Freddie Anderson, saved them in the third period of Game 3. They lose Game 4, and then it's either win or you're done. And they play a great half of a game in Game 5 and then hold on for dear life with Freddie Anderson saving their bacon in the third period. So, I think that narrative hasn't changed. Their back is against the wall. If they lose, their season is over with. So I think they're going to play, maybe a little bit fast and loose because they really have nothing to lose. If they lose, they're done. And if they win, they live to tell the tale another day.
How does Boston respond tonight? Puck drop. What is their game plan right from the get-go?
I think Boston is going to try to, keep this game, scoreless, very tight, which they can do like they did in Game 4. I think they're going to rely on, maybe the nerves and the mistakes made by a younger team to give them that first break. I think they're going to play close to the vest. And, it's worked before in the series. I mean, I may be completely wrong. They may come out and try to throw a knockout punch in the first 5 or 6 minutes of the first period, and if they get up 2 or 3-0, then that approach will have been successful. But I think that they're going to try to limit the Leafs' ability to throw stretch passes. I think they're going to try to limit them offensively, get them frustrated, especially in front of the home crowd at Air Canada Centre, and hope for a 1-0 or 2-1 game.
This is the Leafs Conversation. I'm Norman James, Mike Augello at Air Canada Centre doing yeoman's work. It's interesting in that Boston may want to prevent the Leafs from playing the type of game they know they can be successful at, as opposed to, as you mentioned, throw that knockout punch early, go toe-to-toe with them in their arena, playing their type of game. Do I sense a bit of maybe a tentative quality to what Butch Cassidy may want to go out there with tonight, thinking that, we're in Toronto, we don't want to go back to Boston for Game 7. Maybe Firewagon Hockey with one of the most elite scoring teams in the league isn't a good idea at this stage of the series.
No, I think playing, as you say, Firewagon Hockey is playing into the Leafs' hands, because I think offensively they're just as good or maybe even better than the Bruins. Whereas, as we've seen throughout the season and also during this series, when the Leafs try to play conservative defensive hockey and shut down their opposition, I think they've been terrible at it. I mean, they 4-1 in on Saturday in the middle of the second period. And, granted, there were a ton of penalties that gave the Bruins the territorial advantage. But after they killed off those penalties, Boston was dominating play for basically the last 30 minutes of the game. So I don't think it's in the Leafs' bailiwick to be able to play a sort of playoff-style, conservative, defensive-minded game. I think for them to win this series, they're going to have to open it up, and they're going to have Boston allow them to open it up.
Any truth to the rumors that official top referee Francis Sharon and the rest of the officiating crew were taking like tourist photos on the steps of Cheers in Boston the other day? Any truth to those rumors? I heard they were all doing a mock tea party set up on the Boston Harbor there. I mean, like and again, I'm joking. I know they don't have a preference, or they're not leaning any way. I mean, this could easily be Bruins fans pissed off at the officials because the Leafs got the bulk of the power plays. But it really was striking in that game, and we have to give the Leafs extra credit. Whether the season ends tonight, they got out of Boston with a victory, being down, having to deal with a PK situation 6 darn times. So I say that in jest, but it is kind of funny. You see those memes of the referees with the yellow and black stripes. That's really comical.
Yeah, I thought it was a Toronto radio station that put out that picture. I thought it was pretty funny. But, that being said, what the Leafs need to do is, to be able to draw some penalties. Remember, I think they were 29th in the league in terms of drawing penalties. So this is not inconsistent with what has happened during the year. And it's strange because, this was a team back in the day that had Nazem Kadri drawing a penalty almost every other shift. Mm-hmm. And now it doesn't seem that they can't, they're getting the respect from the officials to be able to draw those penalties. Or maybe Boston is just good at maintaining a level of composure. I know that, there may be a level of frustration amongst, some of the Leaf players, because we've seen Brad Marchand throughout the series pull his chicanery, tapping the back of Mitch Marner's head and, pile driving him into the ice. And I asked Marner today in the Leafs locker room whether it bothered him, and he's like, basically he was saying, I just laugh at it because, which is a good approach. They have to sort of maintain their composure and not retaliate against Marchand, because I think that's what he's looking for. And we know, other than Game 5, the Bruins' power play has been absolutely lethal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, the Leafs have a fantastic power play too. The regular season, one indication after another each game. In the playoffs, hasn't been good. Then obviously they went 1-for-1 with their limited chance in Game 5. Just a couple of things before we go. Mitch Marner, he's a great guy. Eh? I mean, I love the clips he gives you. I mean, he is fired up. He's not fired up. He's even keel. He's hinting at something. He's a fun guy to talk to.
He is, and I liked the comment that he made, because one of the reporters had asked him a question regarding, being in elimination games, playing in London, playing internationally, and he said, and it's in a way taking it on himself and putting it on, the star players on this team. He says the big players have to come and show what they're made of in big games. And, he did it with London. And, I think even, the expectation is for, internally and externally, for Austin Matthews and William Nylander and these players to step up in this game and to make a difference. And one benefit for being at home, other than the support of the Leaf fans in the crowd at ACC, is the last change. And if we saw it in Game 5, Connor Brown's goal, which was created by Matthews doing a wrap around the net, was during a shift where Zdeno Chara and Charlie McAvoy were on the bench, not on the ice. And Chara and McAvoy's job has been to neutralize Matthews, and they've done it pretty well. But they have to be able to get away from Chara and McAvoy, get Matthews in situations against other players to be able to create offensively.
The big players have to step up. What better time than Game 6 in Toronto? It's going to be a great night by what the forecast is telling us. Maple Leaf Square should be rocking. We know fans are making the pilgrimage down there right now. If the Leafs win and extend this to a 7th game, we get more hockey, Mike. You get to write another story about a Maple Leafs team that's making its way towards greatness. And I get a chance to collaborate with one of the best beat reporters out there, blog writers and podcast doers in yourself. So if they win tonight, that's more hockey for us, and that's a fantastic thing. Before we go, on Mike Babcock, I'm a huge supporter of Mike Babcock, and 95% of the time I'm siding with whatever he's putting out there. But what is he so afraid of when it comes to physical hockey? You just mentioned that Nazem Kadri used to draw almost a penalty a shift or a couple of penalties a game. In reality, Matt Martin did add a physical presence out there last season. He could be effective, but this year it seems to be it's all speed, all skill, all finesse, and we'll overcome just about anything that comes our way. That's great when you're playing 82 games in the regular season and you've got these Wednesday affairs with Columbus or New Jersey or whomever. But now you're in the playoffs. You're dealing with a team that wants to punch your face in, physically and metaphorically. What is Mike Babcock like? What is his? Why does he balk at physical play? Doesn't he think that there's an element that's needed, especially at this time of the season?
I don't think he balks at physical play. I think he's simply playing to the team's strengths. I mean, really, I like Matt Martin as a player, but Matt Martin is a 4th liner at best. And Roman Polak is on the bottom pairing. There really is no physicality on the Maple Leafs. They have a ton of skill, and I think he's playing the best players. And now, granted, I think if Leo Komarov is even close to being healthy, if they get to a Game 7, he'll probably put Komarov in there for his experience and for his sandpaper. But right now, I think Babcock is just playing to the team's strength, and that's what he needs to do. It gives him the best chance to win.
Any predictions on tonight, or you just want to keep that to close to the vest?
Yeah, I tried to hesitate. I predicted at the beginning of the series the Bruins in 7. So going with that, I would say that the Leafs win tonight. But the series hasn't gone really the way I thought it would. So it's up in the air. But I'll say Toronto wins tonight to force a Game 7.
Any wacky Leaf fans already camped out down there that you see?
I haven't been outside. I've been in the bowels of the Air Canada Center, so I can't tell you.
The bowels of the Air Canada Center?
That's correct.
Let's just leave it at that. Mike, you do great work. It's always lots of fun. Enjoy Toronto. Beautiful day. Enjoy tonight's game. Hopefully it's a beautiful contest, and we're talking about a Game 7 tomorrow. But if not, there will be other things to talk about. Michael, have a good one.
Thanks, Norman.
All right, we've got to wrap her up. I've still got to prime up for this game by doing the backyard and feeding the cats. Hey, it's a great life out here. Plus, there's an Alan Bester feature coming up on Leafs Nation Network here in the next couple of hours. I need to be ready. A quick shout out and a massive and meaningful one for my friend at Jillian McLeod05. Jillian, you're a doll. Everything you do for this podcast in terms of promoting it, in terms of hyping it up, in terms of passing along what we're trying to do means so much. It will not be forgotten. You can find this podcast just about everywhere podcasts are found: iTunes, Anchor, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Google Play, and on YouTube. Go there and like and subscribe the Leafs Conversation page. All of our podcasts will end up there at some point. I'm telling you, get in while the getting is good. Be one of the originals. Game 6 tonight, folks. How do you think it goes? Regardless, we'll be back for more Leafs Conversation in the very near future. For Mike Augello, I'm Norman James. Enjoy tonight. We'll talk to you soon.